Okay. Yeah,
Welcome to
man.
another episode of the modernblackman.com. I've got the homie Doug with me, and this one's a really fun one because it's straight to the point. I want to know what's going on with women and children. Doug,
Mm,
I appreciate
yeah.
you being with me, man. I sent a SOS, whatever you want to call it, and I want to know what happened to us valuing women being innocent, children being innocent, and the space being what it is. I think that the world should be an organic place. Things happen, things get in a whole scale of array, but the world is and always has been what it was. Why do we not value women possessing innocence and children being shielded from the truths of the day?
Because there was a president, and I think black people get tired of hearing about him because they don't necessarily care about the truth of the matter. But he said he'll
Mm-hmm.
have niggas voting for Democrats for the next how many years?
100 years. You're talking about
100 years.
LBJ, my
So we,
favorite
yeah. So
president.
I mean, so we still within that 100 year realm.
Yep.
So
Threshold.
as
Yep.
long as that, yeah. So what do I mean when I say all of that? I say all that to
Mm-hmm.
say this: when women had made a decision to keep the fathers out the house, there was no shield for her because now she's going to have to be mommy and daddy. When
Yeah.
women made the decision to kick men out the house, there was no shield for the child because the child was supposed to be able to say, "This is what my dad taught me." He never got a chance to say that. So as a result, you have a culture now where you can walk outside and literally see a kid, a boy, a young boy and a young girl in a full-fledged fist fight.
Yes.
You can see that because they have decided that they want to be equal rather than
Yes.
rather than rather than complimentary. They don't like the word complimentary because it makes them
They do
seem like they're
not.
useful. I don't think that I don't understand what people have against just being useful. You know what I mean?
We
You know what
shouldn't
I'm saying?
say complimentary. Our kids will never copulate if we use terms like complimentary and what was the word you were using?
Equal?
Equal. You use another word, but we have to change the terms because they don't see themselves working together. I see that so much now. It took me
Yeah.
3 years to see it.
Uh, but I mean that's what my thought is on the matter. I do believe that the reason that women are undervalued is because they had made a decision to be undervalued. Because if you're in a realm where men we're good at what we do, like going to work, you're not going to
Yeah,
thrive, right?
yeah.
Like you're not because we're not going to look at you like an equal. You're a female doing it. You're not a man, right? Where I mean,
That
do I
sounds
do I
so
want you?
fair.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, because I know there's somebody right now that's scratching a wall because I sound chauvinistic, right?
Yes,
I
they're
don't
gonna
mean to
label
be,
you instead of
yeah,
dissecting your
I don't,
thoughts.
right? I don't mean to be chauvinistic. I don't mean to say that a woman can't do X, Y, and Z.
You're
I
not
I
being
simply,
chauvinistic, so don't feel that way. You're speaking on facts, and we're talking about superficialities. That is okay. So please lean into that and superficially
yeah,
evaluate the situation. We're looking at
right,
situations where, yes,
right. So I do feel that there was a time when women had a clear understanding of their worth. They had a clear understanding of their value. They had a clear understanding of their place. And men had the same. Those things are done
yes,
now. Neither one of us have understanding of the three things. Neither one of us.
yes,
We're just
yes.
we're trying to make it work around each other, and it don't work like this.
But let's talk about this though. It's because of where our culture has evolved. It's insecurity is central. Women have insecurity, and I think men have insecurity. But now we don't have a medium to address and buffer our gender specific insecurities. Now
Yeah,
we have this androgynous system where we just have to be equally footed and understood, and it's leading to what I think is chaos. I think it's so interesting. It's
yeah,
not as
yeah.
easy as saying that the men are no longer straight or the women are no longer straight. It's
Right,
evaluating how they have connected to confusion.
right, right. And I mean, I like to use the idea of a Fortune 500 company in these matters, just so people can
Yeah.
understand what happened when the top is messed up. When the top is messed up, you can see what happens to the company, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I say all that just to simply say that there was a time where men understood their purpose in these roles, right? These roles of being in charge and taking on the responsibility of putting your name in front of what goes wrong in a company, right?
I call these
However,
the glory years, the
yeah, well,
success
I mean,
years.
you'd be surprised just how successful companies were when this wasn't even like a thing we talked about because it was just the way it was, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, I mean, and I'm not about to pull up any stats about any particular company. I just use the symbolism to simply say bringing it back down to a micro standpoint. If I'm dealing with a man that is now grown and he's now very sensitive, he's very into his feelings, right? And he wants everybody to know his feelings, right? He'll do something like this. He'll call work and say that I'm late or I might not be coming because I just got in a fight with my girl and we broke up. like like I would
Mm.
care if there was no women around, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that he was talking, and I'm using actual situations in my life, right? The fact that he was talking to a woman, he thought that she was supposed to care, right? Right. So I
That's kind
told
of
her,
it, though. Yeah.
yeah,
Is that
I mean, he
we,
thought he
we
should.
we think that women are where we want them to be, and women think men are where they want them to be, and we have these possibly ideal expectations, but we're not meeting in reality. So now we hate each other because we're failing each other in reality.
Yeah, because and quite in all honesty, he was 100% sure that the supervisor that he called, that she would empathize, she would understand, and she would tell him to go ahead and take the day off and try to figure this out with your girl. And I'm praying for you. That's probably what he was expecting, but he didn't know that I was standing right there, right? Because I was
Right.
standing right there and she's a subordinate of mine, I told him, tell him, I said, excuse me, I told her to tell him he has 3 minutes to be to work, right? And because he met somebody he wasn't expecting to meet over the phone, you know what I'm saying? He looked like the weak person in the situation, right? He
Right.
just looked real weak because quite honestly, he was hoping somebody would let them cry on excuse me, he would let somebody would let him cry on their shoulder, right? But in the workplace, sensitivities are useless to me if I'm trying to make a profit. Correct? I don't care how you feel, is what I'm simply saying. Right? Can you do the job? If you can't do the job, I'll find somebody else that can. Does
Okay.
that sound heartless? Yeah, it sounds heartless
Yes, it
because
sounds factual.
the workplace has no room for that. But because you live in a world now where you have female CEOs, you have female CFOs, you have women management. Not to say that they can't do the job, but you do see what that brings. It brings weak men that are thinking that they have now somebody whose shoulder they can cry on when they don't want to be men.
I want to talk about that. So I think that that could be a very valid point. But we just live in an evolved workplace where we take in all these additional considerations, and it's transformed the workplace from what used to feel like a consistently productive environment to one that is consistently, no, I lost the homie. All right, so hopefully this guy joins us again. The point I was making was how work has transformed from a place where we work on a monotonous task consistently every day for weeks, and then we zoom in on something different. What's going on? Go ahead and make your point. I'm sorry.
No. You were actually talking. My phone fell, and
All good.
and
All good.
yeah, when I picked it up, I touched something. I'm sure. Um, but I mean, I expect this. You know, I expect it to get worse before it gets better. You know what I mean? I think, you know, having the kind of president that we have now kind of gives men the ability to see what it looks like to lead with strength rather than lead with
I'll be right
emotion.
back. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So, and I mean, it's an opportunity. I think that if men want to understand what it looks like to lead, you know, what I've seen President Trump do within the past few months is phenomenal for individuals that are in a particular leading position. You know, he's not taking no for an answer, which in today's climate would have CNN in an uproar, like, oh my God, he won't take no for an answer. Like, no, I'm not taking no for an answer. My country comes first, right? I mean, that's a beautiful thing to have a president where you know that we're going to be safe because he's utilizing the military correctly. He's only allowing the right type of people to be enlisted, the only type of people, right type of people to be officers, which means that, you know, we'll have a fighting force that can fight rather than a fighting force that looks like, you know, the general public, which is the last thing you want the military to look like. You don't want the military to look like the general public, but
At
you also
all.
don't want your company to look like the general public, right? Let's just
At
say,
all.
hypothetically speaking, I owned a chain of gas station convenience stores. So in that convenience store, you got a liquor side and you got a regular item side, and then outside you got a gas station. And I got 15 of those locations. And at those 15 locations, all types of people come into those locations as patrons, right? But I don't want all of my employees to act, look, and dress like the patrons. So what do? I come up with a uniform that they all wear. I come up with a schedule that they all use. I come up with company values that they all follow. I create
Can
a
we talk
culture.
about this briefly? I want to
Yeah,
talk about that. There's so much
yeah,
value in that. I
mm-hmm.
think that's reflective of the culture at large. And I'll be honest, I'll talk about myself. 20 years ago, that's how I learned about how people conducted themselves. I had no idea that people had that over their heads of a job, of a responsibility, of a culture to fit into, of a nomenclature to speak within. So, heck yeah. That's a my. I don't think that's all Americans. I don't think that's all people. I think that's what makes this conversation interesting, because when you
Mm.
find out the people that's paying the money, the people that are making the impact, are the people we're talking about. Is that right?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
So
Yeah.
I think that's the breakthrough. I think identifying that America is an incredibly stratified culture. It's not a homogeneous culture. I always felt that way growing up, but around 20, I started identifying that we have hundreds, thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of factions within this country. And that's what makes us free.
Yep. That's what makes us free. I think that's a good word to use. That makes us free. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got other
Yeah.
places, it's just that one mode. And what's that one mode, Doug? Survival.
Survival. Survival. That is true. I imagine, someone that lives in China, under an actual dictatorship.
Dictatorship.
Yeah, they don't live a normal life. It's probably mostly fear. Everything they do is based on what the rule is in this matter, right? Like that's a scary way to live. And remember, like, I mean, the majority of what I've been saying was in reference to a company culture, or was in representation of a company, excuse me, as a country as a whole. But if I'm just talking about the regular everyday person, we as Americans have the ability to create our own rules. You know what I'm saying? Like we have the ability to say, you know what? I don't like the way this company runs its own company. So what I do is I go out and make enough money to start my own company. Right. But, the fact of the matter is, getting back to the heart of the conversation is I don't want to put my woman in a situation where she feels like she has to go and create a company to minimize circumstances that's happened at the current company, i.e. going out
Right.
and finding another dude, right?
Right.
Right. So, I mean, what's true? What's true? There was a time where your woman wasn't the worry, right? Like she wasn't the problem. She wasn't the one that was out in these streets. Your
Right.
kids were in before the lights came on. Um, they didn't go to the local store and just rampage the mug. They walked by the store as if they knew the person in the store would come out and whoop them just as fast as you would.
But Doug, stop. You're talking about our generation. We were the end of that. It ended with us.
I want them to know that we got out of our generation. Now, I think that's the issue. Is like just because they don't live in that generation doesn't mean that they can't rebuild their own. Because I kind of feel like they're not that far. You know what I'm saying, B? They're not that far from fixing it. They just have to
Agreed.
believe it works. You have to agree
Agreed.
that it works, right? So I mean, I'm just saying.
They have to
Let's
want it
just
like
say,
we want it because we didn't know the difference. We just emulated what our parents and their parents had done, and it was nothing but success up
yeah,
until and through our generation. Something happened with our children. Something happened after us where things began to fall apart. And that's where we started really differentiating these generations because there was the silent generation. I'm sorry, the greatest generation. There was the boomer generation, the silent generation. There was Gen X. There was us. They call us millennials, but don't forget that millennials are people that are about to be in their 50s.
I don't think
So
I don't think we're considered millennials though.
I never identified until millennial until I was 30 something years old.
I never
Right?
tried to keep up with any of it. Yeah.
Until I was about
Yeah.
30, they were like, oh no, you're a millennial. And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. Because I had identified as the generation prior, but somewhere around 2000, what, 2015, 16, we started redefining what the millennial was. And I think that the gap, if you look at millennials, a pretty big one. I think that it's more or less of Generation X wanting to separate from us, and that's okay. But yeah, um, as far as generations go, we need to really respect those that came before us because look at what those people are doing. Look at their lifeline. Look how old they are, how old they've become, how much in real estate they have, how much wealth they've acquired. They have the accolades. It's literally like having Michael Jordan compete with, at best, Dennis Rodman. You were a fringe player. You know, as a fringe player, what you had to do to be successful and be on par with that generation before.
That's interesting. That's
Right? I think that's
interesting.
a good analogy. Give me some credit,
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. I was trying to absorb it a little bit more.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's pretty deep. I
Yeah, it is.
I,
It's hugely deep.
I don't I probably on the same boat you were. I never really identified as any I mean with any, you know, I guess particular sect. I
Generation.
just with generation. I didn't know which one to go with, you know what I mean? Like, because when I think about it, I think of a generation as what, about 60, 70 years, you know what I mean? So
See, as I get older, I think of a generation as less than 30 because 30 is too long. And it used to be 60, 70. Now, generation is not even 30.
it sounds
Exactly,
like people are
Doug.
dying faster. Sound like they're dying
It
faster.
sounds like we cut generations or we're making these transitions more often. And I agree with that school of thought. I think that in 20 years, what we think in 2025 will seem archaic and we'll
Hmm.
want to run away from it. That's just me.
Interesting.
I really think
Interesting.
that
But
2045 is when I think the big changes are coming. I think everybody's going to have a car that doesn't burn gas. I think that our thoughts are going to be so changed from what we believe today because I'm strongly convicted in what I believe. And I see the things that culture believes. And I think that in the next 20 years, the world won't achieve too much. I said it.
well, I don't know. If I'm a betting man, I'm willing to bet against that idea.
Okay.
I would and I would say if we're talking 20, 30 years, what's up, man?
I
We're
said
talking,
20, not
okay.
30.
Okay, so 20 years from now would be 2025. And your expectation is that we don't improve as a world. We essentially get worse.
No, I think things are going to be largely the same for 20 years. And that's
Oh,
the scourge of this era. I
uh-huh.
think that young people don't realize that they're condemning themselves to Groundhog's Day. And that's going to be new culturally, socially, politically over the next 20 years. Yep, that's my prediction. Everybody is so afraid of either change or mistake that we are going to have 20 years where we just do a holding pattern because we know that we are not right.
Interesting.
I totally believe that. It doesn't mean that we're wrong, buddy. It means that we are cognizant, we're aware, we're maybe even putting in effort. And we know that our effort is misguided. And we don't
Mhm.
want to suffer the negative effects of being misguided. So, what do, Doug?
Choose Jesus? I don't know.
Amen. Amen. Do you think that 60% of the population will choose Jesus? Because I love Jesus,
not
and I
according,
wouldn't say that.
not according to scripture. Yeah, you were, ma'am.
Oh, I am. Oh, okay.
Yeah, last
Thank
on your right.
you.
Yeah, man. I would love that, but I don't foresee it. No, not at all. If I had to guess, I'd say somewhere around maybe 10% of the world will choose Christ, and the other 90% won't. That's my prediction. Yeah.
90%? Yeah. I don't hugely disagree with that. I think that we're in a unique point in culture or a unique point statistically because we have more evidence on the side of but people are opposed to. People don't want to be misled. People don't like to be lied to. People don't like to be played with. People don't like to make the wrong decision. So they prefer indecision. And I
Yeah,
think that that is going to leak further in our culture for the next couple of decades.
interesting. Yeah, I think and this is probably going to choke somebody the wrong way, but I think if we kind of just rid ourselves of the, how do I put this? I want it to sound bad. If we get rid of as many of these so-called black churches as possible, and
Uh oh.
we start making church what it's supposed to be, and a place for Christians and not a place for black Christians or a place for white Christians. I remember somebody saying that the most segregated time of the week is during church, right? And
Malcolm X.
I'm pretty sure that's still true. It still holds true.
It sounds like you're saying vibes over tribes.
No, I'm not saying vibes at all. I'm saying the truth over tribes. I'm saying if we
Truth
got,
over roots.
I think if we had got better at just preaching the gospel rather than trying to excite people into loving Jesus, we'd be farther along as a faith. The
And
problem is we're so adamant about having the biggest numbers in our churches and getting people to hear what we got to say and all of that other nonsense that I only get to hear in black churches because I only really have witnessed black churches. So I mean, I can only talk about black churches. So hey, I guess I'm an authority on this.
right, right.
but
Life experience.
yeah, I'm essentially saying that what I've seen is the reason why people like me, you don't get us going to church too often. Like I've been a Christian majority of my life, and will always be a Christian. But there's no reason for me to waste my time dealing with men that don't want to lead correctly or lead based on the rules. You know what I'm saying? Like just
Let's close on that. Let's close on that. Men, I believe it's Thomas Jefferson that said that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Something like that. That is the nature of man. We want power for privilege, but in practice and perception, it is not productive,
hmm.
right? Power makes us evil and it gets us off the mark. So, agreed. I want to be a part of a circle of worshipers that value the word and eternity, not the power and the propensity. That's just me.
I like how
Let's
you put
close
that.
on that.
I like how you put that. And I don't want to deviate from what you said because I hope we can come back and talk specifically about that. But I think me and you agree. I think me and you agree.
Life is precious, life is purposeful, and life is predicated on our decisions and the ramifications or consequences of them.
Hmm.
I am grateful, I'm thankful, I'm blessed. I see this so clearly. I've been a part of systems that were corrupt. I've been a part of systems that were ineffective. I've been a part of systems that were pretentious. But locking in and committing, identifying decisions, or I'm sorry, systems that are effective, systems that are impactful, systems that are consistent, systems that work exist also. And I
Okay.
think that that's our problem. We want to latch on to what's comfortable or maybe even successful or accessible. What's in front of us is the greatest system. And that's where we lose it. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that I don't believe at all that the church should look anything like the culture. There was a time when people were trying to impress those that were in the church, as opposed to the church trying to impress culture, right? Trying to make it seem like we're not so bad. Like, hey, look. This is a group of people that have made a decision to not be like the world, to not be in and of the world. So it makes no sense for us to do the things that I'm seeing these days on YouTube with a lot of these black churches where they're trying to utilize things of the world to make Jesus more palatable. I don't think Jesus cares to be palatable. I don't think he cares to be. I think he is more interested in me being wholly like him than me making everybody else feel good about the nonsense that they want to involve themselves in throughout the day. So yeah, I can essentially excommunicate myself in a sense, right?
Wow.
In a sense, because they're always going to. Well, we ain't seen you last week. You coming by, and I mean you always smile and nod, and not me. No, I'm not. I promise I'm not. I have no reason to be there. You can't teach me anything. I love you. On the Christmas, all the Christmas events, birthdays, and all of that, we'll always be together. We'll always see each other. So I'm not neglecting the saints. However, not on Sunday. I don't need to be there. You can't teach me. You don't want to teach me. You don't want me to learn. You don't want me to understand what it means to be saved. You don't want me to understand what it means to be sinful. You don't care.
Mm.
You don't care. You don't care why I need a savior. Because if these pastors cared to tell us why we need a savior, their pews, everybody's pews would be full. Every last one of them. If every last one of them cared to tell you why you need a savior, your pews will fill up instantaneously. Why? Because the power of the word is enough. It doesn't
Amen.
the
Amen.
gospel is enough. It doesn't need you. You're unnecessary in this matter. You're supposed to be a vessel for the word to go forward, not your vision to go forward. How do churches have their own vision anyway? You ever notice that? You ever go to
They
churches
make
that
it up.
they tell you their own vision, they tell you their own mission statement? How do you have a mission statement and a vision that's different from gospel? You know what my vision statement would be and my mission statement would be if I owned a church?
What would it be?
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes shall not perish but have everlasting life. For God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, that through him they might be saved. I mean, that's plenty. That's plenty.
That's a lot of meat on
That's
the bone,
plenty.
right?
Yeah, that's plenty. I,
Amen.
I mean, what other reason do I need to be here if that part of the Bible isn't true? If that part of the Bible isn't true, what other reason do I have to be there?
I think that that is an avid advocacy. I think that is a viable value system. I would go to your church. So that's all I got to say on that. I would definitely, you feel me? Like
Yeah.
I think that we live in a world that is so multifaceted, that is so evil, that is so misguided, that is so lost, and that is so petty, that is so scorned and sinful. We need to really have wins on the daily. We need to have the ability to see God is real. If we can see that God is real, God can act in our lives, and that God is a solution to the problems that this world presents to us, we can transform not just our situation, but possibly the world.
So it sounded like you said we need to see a sign.
We need to see what now?
A sign.
Not a sign, just that we need to maintain faith. And maybe that's my, I don't want to say problem, because I'm so grateful to God. I do have that faith. I have a modicum of faith to hold on to. I do have a mustard seed that I can believe in to see a new world. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah. So the reason I asked that is because I think what you had said was we need to see God's power, right? Um, and that's why I had begged the question of whether or not. Well, I guess I should say it does beg the question of whether or not you believe that the average person today just needs to see a sign, um, which I would caution, right? Not specifically you, because I don't think it's you you're talking about, but the average person, yeah, probably does need to see a sign. And Jesus had something to say about you know people that need to see a sign. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Because quite honestly, we are people that don't get to see anything, right? So, for instance, when when uh, when he was in the room, this is obviously after his crucifixion and after he was risen, he was in a room with the disciples, right? And one of his disciples, he 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 got there late. Everybody else was already excited, that they had saw the risen Christ, right? And he walks in and talking about it. He's still doubting. He's still doubting. And he said, I need to see the holes in his hands and then, in his feet, so on and so forth. And Jesus appears at that moment. And he tells him to, examine me. That's what he told him to do. He told him to examine me, right? And this is, obviously before they ate. But between all of that, Jesus says, you believe because you see. Blessed are those who do not see yet believe.
Amen.
Right? I mean, now I think the issue with the average Christian today is when you hear the gospel, you're hearing it from somebody that's and you're just ready to go. You're just
What did
ready
they
to go.
say, Doug? Can you say that again one more time?
I don't know what they said, bro. They haven't seen it.
So that is what you hear.
The fact of the matter is, if you really think about all I just said in reference to that moment, when Thomas had examined Jesus' hands, right? What Thomas learned in that situation is monumental to his ministry when Jesus left, right? It's monumental to how he can go out and talk to people that he knew for a fact did not see him, right? But I'm going to tell you, they're going to put me to death at some point. I'm not going to make it through these next 20 years. I probably won't, right?
That's wild.
I probably won't make it through these next. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about if Thomas were having a real conversation. This is something he might say. You guys need to pay attention to what I'm saying. I saw him. I saw it with my own eyes. Okay, I saw it. What people don't understand about history is if you really go back into first century, when a person told a story, it was verifiable. When a person sat there and took their time to tell you their account of something happening or somebody else's account of something happening, it was verifiable and it was a serious matter. People didn't just go around just sharing stories like they're going live on TikTok.
Right.
No, everything that was said aloud in a group was absolutely paramount to the moment,
Confirmed.
and it was easily confirmable because there wasn't that many people on Earth, so it's easily confirmable. If I'm telling you a story about something that happened just yesterday, it's not hard to find people that were living during the matter. It's not that hard to find them. You don't even have any. You don't even have any Roman, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, You don't have any writings saying that anything that any Christian is saying is not true. The only one you have at this point is the Quran. And the Quran came, what, 700 years after Christ left?
600.
600. Okay. Well, no, I think that's when
I
he
don't
came.
know.
I think that's when Muhammad came, and I don't think Muhammad even knows that the Quran exists, to be honest with you. But I'm pretty sure that the Quran came a long time after he was gone. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm pretty sure that he does not know Islam was a thing.
Right. That's
You know,
facts.
but Jesus did know Christianity was a thing. Why? Why do I know
There
this?
were no Christians in the Bible, right?
Well, no, okay. So Christian is a word that was coined to them. It wasn't. It wasn't. This is what they called themselves. This is what they were called. Okay. We ended up adopting and saying, okay, yeah, I like that. If it means followers of Jesus, fine. I'll be a follower of Christ. That's what I am anyway. That's what a follower of Christ is, right? Yeah. But if you look in Luke, you'll see a moment where Jesus sends his disciples out, and then the very next chapter he sends more disciples out. These people are already there's you know there's rumors going around about Jesus at this time in his life. People are hearing about him. People have heard of him. John lived in the same area as him, but he was still hearing about Jesus from his disciples. They weren't, together. They weren't, walking together. They were on their own ministries. This is why people refer to him as rabbi, right? Right. The reason they refer to him as rabbi is because his main purpose, his main job for the temple, was to accurately uh, explain the text, right? That's why he said, "I didn't come to abolish," which doesn't only mean to get rid of. It also means to get it wrong, which you guys are doing currently. You guys are getting the text wrong.
Abolish.
Yeah. If you look at abolish in the Greek, you'll see more than one word there. Yeah. So I mean, what you'll see is that he didn't come to, he came to accurately interpret the law. That's what he came to do. He came to accurately interpret the law. So by accurately interpreting the law, he's telling you exactly what he wanted as God. Because one other thing he did was his last few words before he was sent to the cross was, "I am." When he was asked the question, "Are you the Son of the Blessed One?" Now they knew what he meant when he said, "I am," and because he said, "You'll see me sitting at the right hand of the power." And then the Pharisee broke open his jacket and said, "What other blasphemies do you need to hear?" The man saying he's God, right? So I mean, knowing this much about the gospel, and I contrast that with the average Christian. The average Christian doesn't know any of what I just said. And as a result, they don't take it seriously. It's a spiritual matter for them. It's something that they don't know anything about, because humans don't know anything about spiritual matters. They talk about spiritual matters. You have never experienced a spiritual matter. You probably can interpret the moment and say it was something spiritual about it. You see what I'm saying? But you can never say you saw spirit. Spirit is, you can't see a spirit with your eyes, right? You never seen these things occur. So everything that happens in this world goes without me seeing it. But that's what faith is. Faith is belief of things that are not seen. Yes. How can why would
Yes.
you why do you what faith do you need to have in things you see? If I see it all the time, I know it's there. You see what I'm saying?
Full faith.
It's easy. It's just a simpler way of having faith, right? Because I've seen it before. I have faith that my grandma exists because I've seen her before. You see what I'm saying? But to serve, I mean, another thing that most Christians don't know about is, all right. Matter of fact, I'll leave Christians alone for a second. Let's talk about the unbeliever. The unbeliever honestly believes that Christianity was just this wave, right? And it was pushed on the communities. It was pushed on people, not understanding that The average person that walked the earth in the first century, if they heard that you served a crucified man, Jew, excuse me, Jew, not man, you worship a crucified Jew, you're a fool. You're a fool. And that
You're a
and that,
dummy.
and that mindset lasted for a long, 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 long time. It took a long time for that to change. Now, when Constantine had decided to paint the sign that he had saw on all of his shields of all of his soldiers, and then they won a war, and he decided that the only reason I won this war is because of the shield the way we had painted the shields, and then he decided to convert. No, there was never any time where there was a mass conversion of a country.
Oh man, my history's getting sticky. That's the
Yeah,
Holy Roman Empire about 300
yeah.
BC
Constantine,
AD.
he personally converted. He didn't convert the country. He personally converted. Now, of course, if
No,
you're
he
if
converted the country.
no, he first
Constantinople
he first.
passed laws
Wait,
that made Christianity tolerable.
I can prove this to you now, B. I can prove this to you now. You don't have to believe me. And hear what I am saying. I am saying that Constantine, when he converted. He converted
Yes.
himself. He did not he did not make a mandate that said that everybody has to be Christian. What he had did was say that he is converting. Now, if a kingdom belongs to me, right? If it belongs to me, what am I going to do? This is mine, and it belongs to Jesus now. You see what I'm saying? So, um, what did they do? I am aware that because I lived in Italy for quite some time, and I've been to Rome, and even the Romans will tell you when they take you on these tours, they'll tell you that all of these were temples that were dedicated to Roman and Greek gods at one point in time, and then one day they just started naming them different people in the Bible. This is what they'll say. Go get a tour. Go take a tour, bro. I promise you, if you take a tour,
No, no,
and,
no, no, no. It's you're right. You're speaking historically, and that's the interesting part because you're so right. It was a day of the sun. It wasn't about God, and then every other intricacy that we bump into. So you're good.
I mean, I move on. I kind of took too long with that part, but I said all that to say, um, what was I trying to say? I essentially was trying to say that it wasn't cool to be a Christian. People
No,
people died for being Christians every century of the existence of a Christian. Every century of existence of Christians, mass Christians have been killed, right?
and it's happening today too.
And it's happening today. Go to Africa right now and call yourself a Christian. See how long you
Go to
last.
China right now and call
Go to
yourself a
China.
Christian.
Go. I mean, go. The odds are endless for where you can go that you can get beheaded for saying it out loud,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I mean, everybody's seen the videos of what they did to them guys in one of the stands. You know what I mean? Because they decided that they wanted to be Christian and they wouldn't denounce Jesus Christ. No, it's not. It's not easy to be Christian, bro. If you want to be on the part of the fringe, here we are. Here we
Yeah.
are.
It's not easy.
You want to
Easier
be
said
outside?
than it is done.
You want to be an outsider? Here we are. Here we are. I don't.
I
I
think
mean,
that that's the stuff though. That's the problem and that's the reality. People parse this and they separate themselves from their reality. So yes, all that you're saying, absolutely true. I told you, I'm always down to come together and really dive deep into this. I just appreciate you making the time. Is there anywhere where people can access you or anything that you're promoting right now?
I mean, honestly, I don't really have a lot of social media going on. You know that. I mean, I'm just kind of. We actually gonna be PCS in here within the next like 6, 7 months. To where I don't know yet. So yeah, I'm just kind of ramping up for that and just trying to prepare myself for that. But no, I don't have a lot going on. Anybody want to reach me? D Fisher Senior 310 at Gmail. You want to ask a question? You want to talk about something? You want to put it all out there? Douglas Douglas K. Excuse me, yeah, Douglas K. Fisher Senior at Facebook. That's about it, brother.
I want everybody to follow Douglas K. Fisher, stay up with his content, and definitely stay tuned with themodernblackman.com. Stay up with us and all of our upcoming events. 2025 has been an incredible blessing. Hopefully, we can keep this momentum going until 26 and until the next episode. Peace.
All right, bro. That was dope.